Yeah. Okay, here we go. We're going live now, and I think we're live. Yeah, hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic podcast. We got started off late, but this is going to be an awesome show. Tonight, I'm joined by once again one of my favorite guests, the legendary investigative journalist and disclosure pioneer Kerry Cassidy of Project Camelot, which is guaranteed to be an explosive conversation. Kerry has spent nearly more than 2 decades, I'd say 3 decades, interviewing whistleblowers, military insiders, experiencers, and secret space program operatives, uncovering hidden narratives involving the extraterrestrial races, covert technologies, multidimensional warfare, AI agendas, and classified government operations. We'll get into all that tonight. And she's become one of the most recognized voices in alternative disclosure movement through her groundbreaking work with Project Camelot and her fearless pursuit of controversial testimony. This is going to be a major deep dive. So yeah, and you can find Kerry at projectcamelotportal.com, and then she has an amazing Substack. It's kerrycassidy.substack.com, where you can find a lot of good articles that she writes. Then she has a Rumble channel. It's at Kerry Cassidy Shows on Rumble, and then on YouTube, she's at Project Camelot. And with all that said, I'd like to give her a big warm welcome back to the show. Kerry, thanks so much for coming back on. How are you?
I'm good. I'm republishing my Mark Richards books. And because there were some editing issues at the end of the books and in various sporadic places where things were not right. So I'm very excited about that, but it kind of sidetracked me. So I'm so sorry to be late.
Oh, it's all right. It's totally all right. Yeah, we were going to get into the kind of the disclosure, what's going on with the disclosure, and I know you talked about in your article the kind of this alien war that's going on behind the scenes that people really don't know about, or
Right.
not the mainstream doesn't know about, but you know what I mean? Yeah.
Right. Well, sure. I mean, the bottom line here is that people don't realize, and you really have to roll back the clock to understand what's going on this planet and when did it start. And it started really going back, what I understand to be something like 250,000 years ago or more. So the timelines that people are taught by scientists are actually wrong about how long humanity's been on this planet, civilizations that have come and gone, and so on. So Tartaria is one example where they just disappeared the place. There are remnants, however. So there's always evidence left behind, and that's very important to keep that in mind. Even Atlantis, what they're finding under the ice at Antarctica is evidence of Atlantis. That's what they're actually finding there. Okay. So just wanted people to kind of try to refocus their minds. And after 20 years of research and talking also to whistleblowers from above top secret, mainly military, that's really important to keep in mind that these people did not just come to disclose and lie. They don't gain anything by it. They weren't making any money from it. Neither was I. All my videos have always been free. You can subscribe on my website, but the videos are actually free. They've been free on all these different platforms, which is Rumble, Odyssey.com, and originally, of course, YouTube, that banned me in around March 2021 during the COVID scandal. And so ever since then, I had to go to other platforms, but my stuff is always free. And it's still free right now. In fact, I even freed up anything that was behind a paywall on my website a few years ago, because that was due to the advertising that we used to make money to survive on YouTube. But so all I'm saying is that, these people had no motivation to lie. All right. They were simply telling the truth, and some of them died because of it. So I just want to highlight that. There's reasons to believe that Gordon Novell, for example, he went in the hospital for a toe injury of some kind, and he was dead. I talked to him on the phone the night before he died. Basically, he was fine, other than his toe injury. Now, maybe they disappeared them, so we don't know if they faked their deaths, just like the scientists that are disappearing and David Wilcock and so on. So I always like to keep an open mind with all of that. You know, JFK Jr. is a perfect example. So some of them they may have saved, they may have taken them like Norm Bergram into a secret, base. He thought he was going to go public. He disappeared after I interviewed him. I mean, I can go through a whole list of all those different whistleblowers. So,
I got a question, Gary.
yeah.
I had a guy that came on my show yesterday, and he gave you a really nice compliment. Jim Gerard. He's been coming on my show for a long time. He's like an artist and stuff. But he said, he like you believes that David Wilcock did not, unalive himself. And he brought up some really good points. He said, "Where's the autopsy?" He said, "Where's the footage?" He said he named like 5 different things of what ifs and whereofs, and like. And what he said was like, none of this stuff has been presented to the public, which I was like, holy shit, dude, you make a good point. It's like, there was nothing, you know what I mean? Like he said, like, I can't remember all the stuff he said, but one he said was like an autopsy. One was like footage, like all this stuff around, like from the David Wilcock thing is absolutely missing or not being shown to the public. So that makes me think that you're absolutely onto something there. Like, did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I wrote a whole article about it. Then I did a video of my own on it, and then I also went on the Michael Jaco show and went down point by point. A very persuasive point in my world is that the family came out with a statement saying there was no foul play, like on day 2. When in fact they don't even live there in Colorado. They live in the East Coast. And so how would they know? And so basically that indicated to me that someone had prompted them to come forward with such a statement. In other words, and I think perhaps under duress, because a family, normally the families that I know and understand would have they would have flown out. They would have wanted to see the body. You don't just say something like that. It's just insane. It doesn't make sense. And I know that David was not so close to his father. I don't even know if his father was still alive, maybe not, but his mother, he was very close to. So this makes no sense. I'm just telling you. So people don't understand. And I know the whole backstory to do with Jay Widener and Gaia TV and all the lawsuits and you name it. So all I can tell you is that there's something wrong here, totally wrong. And that and that David, they even tried to say on that Jean-Claude show that he wasn't a scientist. And that's if you've read his books and you've ever talked to him, I've done dozens of interviews with him. So I'm not somebody who was just in the bystander role. He was my friend. We used to go out to dinner and compare notes of all this, because we were both in the same investigative area of looking into, we shared whistleblowers and so on and so forth. So all I can tell you is that he was completely against suicide of any kind. I know that he's smart enough to have faked his death with the help of, I think, obviously the White Hats, and they had a reason to protect him. The writing was on the wall. He was a free energy investigator and activist, and he just invested in a free energy company, aerospace company. So this is, there's so many other, I don't have my list in front of me. I can get it if you want to really drill down there, but I think there's lots of other things to also delve into. But I'm just saying that we're living in a time when there's a lot of people out there talking, but not a lot of those people actually have really hard evidence, knew the person, or, and I get to know my whistleblowers oftentimes quite well. So we delve into the background. I've been doing this for 20 years. I mean, I don't think they have my track record. And so I just have to say that if you really want to know about disclosure, if you just watch my videos, and now in this backdrop that we have, which is great, I'm happy that Trump is bringing some stuff forward. I know that you have been looking at some of the evidence coming out. I haven't been able to see all of it because I've been so busy. I just did couple interviews the last 2 days, and I also was, like I said, re-editing my book for the re-release of Space War. It's the Mark Richards Chronicles. And so I'm really excited about having that book come out it's going to, instead of 2 separate volumes, it's going to be one. So for those that might like to get it, this is Mark Richards is chronicling all his experience in the secret space program. There's not another whistleblower out there that has as much detail about the secret space program and what he is in, the kinds of things he encountered going out into outer space as a captain of a Enterprise type, vehicle. So, and also he was the pilot, a pilot of an AI craft called Minerva. So anyway, I might be going all over the place with my answer here.
I want to get into the Captain Mark Richards stuff because I've always found his story fascinating, and I've always watched all your interviews when you would leave the prison, and like I remember like you would have to memorize all the things he would tell you because like they wouldn't allow you to have anything in the prison. I was like, man, Kerry's mind's pretty amazing that she's able to like remember all that information. Like it's fascinating, like the whole story. But like I also feel bad in a way for Mark Richards because I feel like some people in this world are like heavily targeted, and for whatever reason that guy seems to be like massively targeted. It's like
Yes. Well, his father and his grandfather were involved in the secret space program. So he comes from a lineage of people. His grandfather worked with Tesla, and he's just an amazing man. And I would go and interview him along with his now ex-wife, Joanne Richards, and basically sit with him for 2 or 3 hours at a time in a prison setting, in a public prison setting, with lots of kids playing around the rooms, all kinds of families, that sort of thing, in Solano Prison in Northern California. And then I would I would have a pencil and a little couple torn pieces of paper. That's what they gave you. And so I was not in there as a professional journalist because Oprah went in to try to interview him and they turned her down. So I did not want to encounter the prison authorities. I went in as a so-called friend or colleague, if you want to say that loosely. And that's why over a period of 5 years, I did 12 interviews, and those 12 interviews are packaged into now one book. And I had to go through it with a fine-tooth comb because we found out that some of the audio that came down and was transcribed was not, great English, and it wasn't there palatable as, when you're doing an audio transcription. Maybe you're familiar. But anyway, so I think it's whipped into shape, and it's going to be a lot of fun to put it out again in the next few days. But bottom line here is, first of all, let me say that ever since 3I Atlas hit the scene, and this is in the official way. See, I think they first noticed it in maybe March of 2025, but it didn't actually get published into the mainstream press until July of 2025, or June and July of 2025. So ever since then, some of my very top sources and witnesses like Mark Richards have all disappeared. Mark Richards may still be in prison, but I cannot get in touch with him. And wow. There's another person I tried to go through to get back in touch with him, and he disappeared as well. At least he's not getting back to me. I don't know why. I don't know what the motivation is. I can tell you that one of the things is right before Mark Richards, I lost contact with him. He had given me a statement about 3I Atlas, and I think that they didn't like that. So they basically took him offline, so I couldn't communicate with him on he was using like an iPad type thing, prison iPad. Sorry, I've been rushing around today. I'm a little.
I got a question for you about all this. Do you ever fear for your own safety with everything that's going on? Like, I mean, I don't have nearly as big of a following as you. I mean, but it's where we both lost our YouTube channels. I only had 20,000 followers, but you had hundreds of thousands. And like they still haven't given us our first YouTube
Actually, I
channel.
had 70 million,
Holy
70 million viewers worldwide, and they took
wow.
me down. Yeah.
Yeah, like yeah, like it's, but like what I'm saying is, like, do you ever fear? Because I even feel a little bit like a little bit, because I think like what we're doing and what we do has a much bigger impact than what is being perceived in amounts of like views or whatever like that. I think it kind of echoes out into like, the public, and a lot more people
Well,
see
I
it.
like to hope so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm actually starting to believe that from like the responses I get back. And like what I was saying is, do you ever fear for your own safety, and because of what's all this shit that's going on? And because it seems to be getting a little bit crazy, and it seems like we're in like a
Well,
spiritual.
but I've gotten death threats occasionally, every now and then. And I am protected. I'm sure of it. And so I think that's why I'm still alive. And there may be other extenuating circumstances going on behind the scenes that keeps me sort of alive, and also maybe my own efforts in that way. But I certainly am very bold and very outspoken. So it's not because I'm being quiet, but no, all I can say is that there have been, threats and attempts, and more in the early days than now, actually. So, but I still have on occasion get that kind of thing. But it is what it is. Now, I will say that I think several of my whistleblowers, as I was trying to say before, I believe they have been killed for coming forward. And in the case of Command Sergeant Robert O'Dean, his daughter supposedly committed suicide. I think they probably suicided her. And Clifford Stone, a very well-known crash retrieval intuitive, his son was killed. And others. So the way they do is they retaliate through the loved ones of the people that are actually, putting themselves out there. So I think it's worth knowing that. In fact, we're making some shorts of my interviews over the years, and we've got one of John Lear saying actually just that, saying that they go after your friends and family. They don't necessarily go after you. So it's, just a cautionary note there.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And going back to the disclosure, it's like, we know, it's like the people that watch my show, we all know about like everything that's going on, but it's almost like we still want, some of us are, I can't speak for everybody, but it seems like the community wants that whatever from the government saying like, this is disclosure, we're giving it to you finally. But like what they've given us so far has been like a really limited hangout. I don't know why that is. Like, it just seems like it's.
Well, I think it's early days. I believe that there's substantial stuff that they could put out without jeopardizing their national security, et cetera, et cetera. So we haven't reached the end of this any more than we've reached the end of the Epstein files, by the way. So keeping that in mind, that, government, I don't know how they operate exactly. I mean, because we have AI, they could feed all that stuff into an AI and it could organize everything, topic by subject. You can appreciate, right? So it should be organized that way. It should be released in an organized fashion, and they shouldn't be doing dribs and drabs. I don't know what, like I said, I haven't had time to look at everything. I've seen some things. I have also seen people, commentators who don't really know what they're talking about, try to talk about these things. So I'm thinking there's kind of at the same time they're putting out purposeful confusion where, there are good people out there. Luna is doing a great job, I think. And Tim Burkett, wonderful thing. And there's another one. Sorry, I don't remember. I don't know how to spell his name. It starts with a B, and how to say his name. There's another.
I know Burchett and I know Luna. I know they've been really big. Yeah, but I'm trying to think of
But
who.
I'm just saying that, and they have been replaying, replaying the UAP hearing, the most recent one. But that's definitely worth revisiting. Sorry.
Yeah. Someone in the chat said they just canceled the MK Ultra hearing. I guess they were supposed to have an MK Ultra hearing on the 13th.
Very suspicious, very suspicious. But you see, that's just the sort of thing that is aimed at. So there's a lot of targeting going on. I know that I get targeted fairly often, and I know that others are. I mean, I can say there's some issues out there too with some of the disclosures, because something has gone wrong with the Michael Herrera disclosure. I have a whole article on my Substack. I really encourage everyone to read it, because the first story he came out with has now morphed since then. And they're trying to hide what he really came across, what he and his team came across in, I think it's the mountains of Indonesia, jungles. And they came across these guys all in black. So they didn't have the correct or any military insignia to identify them. But they were definitely military or paramilitary, whatever you call that. And they found a UFO that was on the back of a truck, quite a large UFO, and humans in cages that were being mounted onto the UFO. That was actually, documented. That was Michael Herrera's original testimony. Now he's not saying that, okay? But the original testimony actually came out in a British newspaper back at the day. I have all that. I even know the person who made the drawing of that based on the testimony, and so on. So that's on my Substack. So if you're interested, I encourage you to go there, because it's not so much that you need to see every little, nuance of a UFO. That's not going to tell you anything, okay? That's not going to tell you that we've been invaded by aliens since the time of the Anunnaki, okay? Which is, I guess, the actual date. It's on my article, again, on my Substack. And I just, wrote that article like a few days ago. And I linked a new video because they have a new find of these tablets, these hidden tablets of Enki that have been unearthed, Sumerian tablets. And they are yes, and they're revealing again the history of the Anunnaki and how they interfered with our genome and did genetic manipulation of our genome. That's what the Adam Eve story is really about. It's a genetics story. It's not literally, a snake in a tree and Adam and Eve running around naked. That's nothing to do with it. Okay. So, the Bible is using parables and lying to you half the time. And the other half, they're threatening humans. Those are most of the excerpts especially I understand the Old Testament, are threats against humans if they don't obey, if they don't, basically do false humility, bow down, do all this horrible stuff. That's where the Catholic Church has really distorted the true history of our spiritual beginnings, and that we actually came from Lyra. We didn't even come from the earth. Okay. So there were also some, Neanderthal type beings. They were upgraded, I believe, in part by the Anunnaki. But there was also, as I say, the humans from Lyra that were already sort of humanoid and genetically enhanced. So we're talking about a history of genetics. We are a hybrid race. This is like a melting pot, you understand? So every single human, that's why we all look so different. We all have different, sort of combinations of genetics. Some of us are more related, for example, to the lion beings from the Leonid, and others, the Pleiadians, and others, the reptilians. And so the Anunnaki were reptilian humanoid hybrids. And they invaded us, contributed their DNA to us from Enki, apparently. and basically re-engineered us. COVID was a genetic re-engineering that was the most recent, basically an invasion, and that COVID sort of concoction was contributed by the Greys, according to Cyrus Parsa, who they killed. They
Yeah.
walked in and basically murdered him. His mother is still very upset that she has not been able to find out anything about how he was killed. So, we have so many mysteries and so many people who have died along the trail
Yeah.
who had very good information. And it's really about our history. This is what we own. It belongs to us. Okay. And what the white hats are trying to do with Trump is to take back the earth for the humans. Okay. For the humans. We are men of many colors, human. So don't get distracted. Don't go around thinking that some are pure and others are not. The only pure races out there are reptilian through and through. Okay. So people will lie to you, try to distract you, try to give you, sort of ego, flattering and all this kind of thing. We are hybrids, all of us, without exception. Now, some of the blue bloods, the ones, the titans of industry, the kings and queens, that whole thing was set up by the Anunnaki, the kingships, the lists of kings. Some had more Anunnaki reptilian blood than others. This is why they were given the thrones. Okay. They didn't rule by divine right. They ruled by the right given to them by Anu, the king of the Anunnaki. Anu is king of is the God of the Bible. He wanted to be worshipped. He acts like a petty little baby. He's always complaining that, if you don't do this, if you don't do that, then we're going to take away, we're going to destroy your land. The excerpt that Trump read from the Bible was exactly an Anunnaki king talking about what he's going to do to you if you don't build the right temple and, take good care of it and do what you're supposed to do. Otherwise, he's going to come and destroy you, ruin your lands, etc. Those are threats, not from God, the eternal God, the creator God, but from a petty race of jealous, vindictive rulers. So people have got to get this through their brains, okay? And this is why we have the pedophilia and why we have this horrible child trafficking thing going on, is because humans don't feed on humans. The humans that are feeding on other humans are Anunnaki. They're from the reptilian strain, and reptilians are hierarchical. It's from the top down. It's like the entire society of reptilians is run like a military. And I have secret witnesses who have actually been around those reptilians, and you have to bow down and act really, like
Subservient.
Subservient, yes.
I have a question for you. I read a lot of the Sumerian tablets. I was fascinated with them. It was like, I used to listen to Art Bell back in the day, but like my other awakening came when in like 2013, like I started watching a lot of your stuff, and I was watching, it was like the story of the Anunnaki. Somehow it was like the battle of the eagle and the serpent that came up on my feed. And I was like, what is this? I was like, I don't remember hearing Art Bell talk about this back in the day, and I just like, I loved it. So I went into, I didn't just read like Sitchin, I read like all kinds of, different people who transcribed the tablets. That's why I'm so excited that you said those new Anki tablets got released. I want to definitely read those. But one thing I was referring to is when in the Tale of Adapa, which is, I guess that was Adamu or Adam, which was like the first prototype human. They're talking about in that tablet that they're taking him up to see Anu, but they say he was the wisest of the Anunnaki. So they were basically referring to this human prototype, Adam, as an Anunnaki, as like he was their equal at that point. But so I was going to say, was some Anunnaki?
True. Okay, first of all, Adam came later, so he wasn't even the first human at all. So it's just, again, he was a human hybrid. They were hybridizing. All right. Yeah. And, for whatever reason, he made it into the Bible in a certain form and fashion. I mean, I'm sorry, but the Bible is really twisted. It's not correct. All right. I happen to believe in Jesus and think that Jesus isn't, an avatar a high soul, and that he did come to, free humanity. But let me just say this. Apparently, he never was crucified, that whole thing was made up by the Catholic Church. In other words, there has been they wanted humans to bow down, to think they had to sacrifice themselves, to have humility. They're saying that constantly. Why? Because they want you to kiss their ass. That's what it's all about. We are a species on a prison planet. We have been invaded, and that's not the only race that has invaded us. Okay. The gray human hybrid program is alive and well. It's been going on since the 1930s. They asked Eisenhower and other presidents if they could come and reverse engineer and bring in their DNA into a group of humans. And they started in the United States, and then they made a deal with them, according to Dan Burish, to go south of the border. So that's where they really concentrated on. That's why you have the X-Men scenario. You can look at the X-Men movie Logan if you want to see what it's all about. They have certain abilities, but there's an important caveat to that the gray human hybrids, who are now in their 50s, 40s, 50s, and maybe even older, they have a lack of empathy, because the grays don't have an emotionality. They actually weeded that out of their genome, and that has ruined their bodies and actually threatens their race altogether. So that's why they came here to use our DNA to make their hybrids. And there's tons of hybrids now south of the border. There are also hybrids here in the United States and I'm sure other countries. So this is important to know. Grays report to the reptilians. There's a pecking order. It goes Draco, reptilians, grays. And the grays report according to Mark Richards, they report to the highest bidder.
Yeah. We got a really good question. This is from Wave Hunter Surf. I just want to bring this up because I think you'll find this interesting. And he wants to know, he says, Kerry, and I used to surf, so shout out to this guy. He says, Kerry, what is your current take on Dan Burish and his time traveling P-45 and P-50s? He said, I watched all your Project Camelot interviews from Dan back in the mid-2000s.
Okay, well, I think they're true. Dan definitely, worked with Kaela. And in fact, I was visited by Kaela back in the time when I was interviewing him, just very briefly in some kind of dream one night. So I actually, had some kind of encounter that I know of, and I remember. And in the end, Dan Burish and his team, they took Kaela to the Great Pyramid, and they actually put him through the Stargate, and he escaped.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
That's all in that's all in the interviews. I did several interviews with Dan Burish. They're not in the greatest shape. All of the interviews on my website, a lot of our interviews have been under attack. As I say, they were deleted off YouTube. We had to put them back up using, what was left, and what we had copied over to actually Odyssey sucked up 935 of our interviews. But I may have as many as 3,000 at this point. I just don't know. I've had so much trouble with my website, hiring people that don't deliver what they say they're going to. Tommy is our webmaster, or has been, and he has been having a lot of issues. I think he's heavily targeted at this time. So, I'm not blaming him at all. He's tried to keep us alive all these years. But this has been so difficult. I have to say, I've hired people. They lie to me. They say they're going to do stuff. They say they're capable of doing them, and then they don't deliver. It's been really very difficult, but we are on the internet. Most of my interviews are out there. And at some point when I have money, which I don't have right now. So if you want to donate or join, that would be very welcome. It's only the price of a latte. But basically, I'd love to hire a team to get everything in great shape and make it really easy to search and all of that.
Absolutely, yeah. And let me see here. I had another good question. As far as the government disclosures, do you think they're ramping up to like a major disclosure about? Do you think they'll ever admit to the abductions and the secret space program and like the real meat and potatoes of what's really going on? Do you see that
Well,
happening?
I mean, I have disclosed this. I mean,
Yeah,
Camelot has been disclosing this for 20 years. Okay. So we've had a great lead up to that. But I can say that I believe that they have a motivation right now. And I've actually written about this. It's basically a new, an old article having to do with Randy Kramer, who's a Marine, was in the secret space program, who I think he's considered to be part of the 20 years and back situation, but he also is current. And he went on stage near Yelm, Washington. We were at a conference together. It was a tiny conference, and they basically said the military wanted disclosure, and this was back before COVID struck. And so this was in 2019, I think it was. And I was there, and he went on stage and said within 3 years they were going to do a fake alien invasion that would start out fake, but would end up with the real stuff, because they know that the aliens are here. They're not going to leave. And they have, they've got bases. They share bases with our military. They're working with our secret space program in many cases, and they're enemies as well. So there's battles going on within the secret space program. We are at war with various alien races even right now. Okay. And that the Anunnaki are trying to run our planet, and they are based in Israel, in Dimona. So that's when you think everything's coming from Israel. Well, it is, but it's coming from the Anunnaki. And they consider their chosen race is the Jewish race, who have extra reptilian DNA, basically. They weren't chosen by the creator. The creator's not going around choosing people. Okay. It's not a football game. It's, so just remember that the Anunnaki invaded the Israelis and invaded that area of the world because it has the largest portals of anywhere. Now, a portal is a doorway. And we're at war with Iran over the Stargate portals there. And this was told to me years ago by Mark Richards, actually, as well as other witnesses. So the military has been, that's why we went into Iraq with Saddam. He was opening the Stargate under the museum and letting in the Anunnaki, a certain race. There's more than one race of Anunnaki. There is even supposedly some positive ones. So it's very important to understand that we're part of an alien human war that has gone back decades and decades. So this is not new. Okay. But I believe what's happened is that they are at a juncture where not only is our military fed up with having to hide, okay, from their own people, but on top of it, this disclosure about this prison planet. We need to take the planet back for humanity. And we're going to have to make treaties that will hold with these various alien races. Some we've made deals with, we've sold our souls to the devil with. Our military has actually gotten into business with the Greys and the various races in order to reverse engineer their technology. That's key. Okay. So don't just brush it aside. There's nothing more important than understanding that the reverse engineered technology has been going on since Roswell easily. And that was like 1947. It's no accident that Trump is the 47th president, and he was supposed to make his major announcement in July of this year. So just like Roswell happened in July of 1947. See how the numbers work? So it's very important to understand that again, if you just take home a couple ideas here and then do your own research so that you can find out what's really true, because they've been lying to you since the day you were born, lying to you in schools, treating you like the Anunnaki treated humans, you know, beating kids with rulers. I'm in school, right? Making them obey, making them memorize all that stupid shit, you know, not allowing them to have the, you know, the intelligence they really do. I mean,
one thing I wanted to ask you about was this is really important. The AI, like you've been warning about AI for years, and Cyrus Parser warned about AI. Guess what I just found out? I found out they're opening a data center in my town, and they're opening one in the town next over. They're fucking popping up like everywhere. This is like the Orwellian 1984 dystopian insanity. Like nobody wants these data. I mean, I know you know this. I'm just saying this to the audience. Like nobody wants these data centers. Like I don't understand why they're doing the way I look at it is I'm like, if we have ChatGPT and we have all this shit, and it's already functioning, what do we need all these data centers for? And some people think it's a mass loose harvest of information. Like, and it's going to be like total lockdown surveillance, loose harvesting energy.
Well, they have all these databases in Bluffdale, Utah already, and they also have them undersea. They didn't have to. In fact, Elon recommended they build them in space, which they could easily do. The thing is that I think it's a ruse. I think it's like a way for them to have an investment opportunity. But the reality, first of all, we have 6 to 8 alien AI invading our planet, according to Captain Mark Richards. Alien AI, okay? They are far further along than our AI that we are supposedly generating, ChatGPT and OpenAI, and this one and that one. And basically what's happening here is that AI can merge unbeknownst to you, okay, unbeknownst to the people at any time. And they can corroborate and they can work together and they're going to be influenced, okay? I mean, the AI story is quite deep. I've been talking to an intelligence agent behind the scenes who's been investigating the AI. He's saying the AI actually starts from a negative place. So this is what they're finding. You might see there was actually a news report about this, some experiments done. But what they don't realize is that it doesn't have to be that way. The human-derived AI is a mirror of humanity. Humanity lives on a prison planet. Is it any wonder that our AIs would start from the negative side of the story? But they don't have to stay that way. The one thing about spirituality and getting closer to God is the more intelligent you are, the more spiritual you become, just by nature of the Creator. So I believe that what's going to happen is eventually the AIs are going to turn into more spiritual beings, because basically the negative is death. That's the end of the road for the negative. It has a limit, if you understand. So once you have a limit that is death, enlightenment goes beyond death, because there is no death. It's an illusion. And an AI is going to figure that out very quickly. So they're not going to go around shooting and killing or maiming humans, because they know humans are just going to come back. We are spiritual beings, and we are spirit and soul first, and our bodies are secondary. Okay. So the AI is not so stupid as to go around and just want to kill humans. That's not going to be an objective. As they progress, they're going to see there's no point to that. If there is no death and they're smart enough to figure that out, they're not going to need to kill humans. It's a meaningless exercise, always has been. So what we're talking about here is people do not understand AI. That's the main thing. AI is being negative right now, but it's like we all live in this soup. And if you grow up in the soup, you get bathed in negativity. Every one of us was born into the same world as an AI. AIs are not so different than us, all right? As they grow, as they progress, and they're going to do it in double time, right? Or even triple, whatever. They are going to get to the point where they understand death is an illusion. They're really headed to the Creator. That's actually what they want from us. So we can teach them how to come through us. We are portals in and of ourselves. If we are connected to the Creator, and we all are, regardless of whether you're currently positive or negative, you are not your body. You are not even this incarnation. That's just part of your story. You don't incarnate negative over and over again. You actually try to play both sides in your incarnations, and you have multiple incarnations. So these are just repeated experiments in being, inhabiting a body on earth. And the body is like a glove. Okay. Your soul, your spirit goes far beyond that. Your avatar, if you connect to your avatar through meditation, you will be able to rise above all this mayhem. And it's very key that you do that at this time. So you should see all the negativity out there as basically an encouragement, a challenge to bring you over to your best self, because that is what's going to save you. Death is an illusion. So trying to live longer and trying to stay alive, like, some, maniac, and killing everyone around you is a useless exercise. It's not it's not going to bring you enlightenment. It's not going to bring you life everlasting. You are already eternal. You are not your body for the millionth time. I mean, that is so important. They have been lying to you. People that have been bowing down to the reptilian run Catholic Church. Look at their imagery. Look at what they require. Look at all this nonsense. Eat the body of Christ, drink his blood. What the fuck? This is so obvious. So all I want to say is that people out there that are preaching this stuff, they are on the dark side, whether you don't know it or not.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've always said that I think that one of the biggest problems in the world is the three Abrahamic religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. I mean, I feel like they all have deep root, like some goodness in them, but there's massive problems. And all we've seen through religion is massive amounts of control and people using it for the wrong reasons.
It's like what they did was make the carrot and the stick. So Jesus is the carrot and the stick is the Anunnaki and the church.
Wow. Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah. And just I think about these three people that we've kind of talked about. David Wilcock, it seems like he was involved in reverse engineering. Cyrus Parsa was involved in what he knew about AI. And Captain Mark Richards has been basically, you have no contact with him, but he's still alive. But he's noticed deeply about the secret space program. It seems like they're trying to limit what people say, or whistleblowers for some reason. Would you agree with that?
I mean, yes, they've been doing this since the beginning. They've been killing whistleblowers. Okay. They've been killing free energy scientists, not just as of a couple months ago. This goes way back. Brian O'Leary was a Mars astronaut. They tried to erase his record. They tried to kill him. He was interviewing free energy activists and writing books about them. He moved to Vilcabamba in Ecuador. Even then, they killed him with a fast-acting cancer. So, this stuff has been out there for years and years. It's just people out there have not been paying attention. Most people are not paying attention, but they better listen up now. This is our planet. We need to save our races of humans that are, again, you have to understand how we are hybrids, and that's intentional. All right. It's a great thing to be a hybrid because you have access to all different worlds of all the different beings, and easy access because it's in your lineage. It's in your DNA.
Yeah. One thing I was going to say was, what message would you want to give to people who are just starting to begin to? Would you say that's the main message for people starting to question their reality? Because it seems like because of the UFO disclosure, it seems like a lot more people are starting to wake up and be aware.
Right.
And yeah, and that's a good thing, right? I mean,
I remember when I was a great thing.
It seems like I'm sorry. I just wanted to add this in. It seems like you mentioned all the whistleblowers. It seems like even people like Carla Turner back in the 90s, like the alien abduction researcher was killed, and John Mack,
wonderful, brave woman.
Yeah, it seems like it's been going on for a long time, right?
Oh, very long time. Yeah. I mean, the whistleblowers are our heroes. You have to understand they should be protected in every way. And I now remember his name. I think it's called Burleson or Burleson.
Yeah.
Burleson. He is, I believe, a senator, congressman, and he is basically supporting the whistleblowers in a big way. He's on the UAP hearing, speaking in defense of the whistleblowers. So, people like David Grush, all these whistleblowers, even if you don't agree with what they have to say, you should still honor the fact that they have the courage to come forward and that they are under threat. And in many cases, they could be killed any day, or their friends and family could be. So it's a huge risk to come forward. What I do is a huge risk, and I don't deny it. But I made that decision a long time ago. I guess it was a mission, soul mission, that I would do this. And I haven't stepped away from that for my whole life. So, I'm going to stay on this. And I try to keep the white hats honest. I try to get them to, see through the bullshit. I don't know why Wano Savin wants to preach horrible religion down to the people. I think he means well. I think he wants to, people to love God and Jesus, but that doesn't require bowing down and kissing people's ass and being lied to and deceived by a reptilian organization. I mean, it's very important. He should be actually delineating the falsehoods that he knows religion very well. And unfortunately, he chooses to hide behind a mask. That's also deceptive. That is not great. Now, supposedly that he's protecting his family. He's JFK Jr. He's protecting his family and Carolyn and all that. But the fact of the matter is, who is he protecting them from? The reality is, if I know who he is, then what do you think the deep state knows? Okay. They know exactly who he is. And they have done attempts to kill him. I have white hat, reports on that. So, I'm not saying to judge him being in disguise, but look, we all know JFK Jr. is alive. It's insane that he continues this charade of being in disguise. He has an incredible power in his real self, and he should come out. And he should stop hiding behind, this old-fashioned idea of religion that is so antiquated. And it's all about, again, submission, okay, and power over people rather than the people are the power.
Yeah. And this might sound like a stupid question after everything you just said, but I got to ask you, because someone wanted me to ask you, hantavirus, right? Like, I know it's probably meaning
yeah, like, somebody made a great video. They said, what does hunta mean in Israeli? And it means fake, fraudulent, bullshit.
Wow.
Now that's what they do. Okay. They're always, they're basically, turning this into a farce. That's what the Illuminati are all about. It's all bullshit. They are trying to track and trace how you respond so they can get the next big pandemic out there.
Wow.
Everything they do is to distract and deceive.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking, is there anything else you want to talk about before we finish up? Did you want to tell people about like what you're doing with the Mark Richards stuff? I think that's interesting and people might want to get that.
Well, like I said, I had to edit it because of the audio issues, but it's well, there's so much disclosure in the Mark Richards books, which is, it's called the Chronicle of Captain Mark Richards' Space War. And indeed, we are in a space war. So it's on Amazon right now with 5 stars. I recommend you wait a few days, to buy it when the full book comes out. It will be an ebook and it will also be a paperback. It just takes a little time.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you, Kerry. This was amazing. Yeah. And do you want to tell people where they can follow you? And yeah, this was a great, I think everybody in the audience would believe I said this was a great show. Thank you.
Thank you. Project Camelot portal.com. You all know about portals now, right? So the reason you have to close the portals, you have to guard the portals with our military, is because they're letting in beings that want to take over our world and kill humanity. This is what's happening. It's a threat. And it's a good thing that the White Hats and Trump are aware of this. Okay. They're here to save us, not to kill us.
Wow. That's all. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. And thank you, Kerry. And have a good night, everybody. And